Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser. Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. My guest today is Jim Stack, chairman of the Madison County, Illinois Democrat Party. Mr. Stack was elected chairman following the unexpected death in May of the former chairman, Matt Melucci. Prior to his election as chairman, Mr. Stack was a member of the Collinsville Township Board of Trustees. Jim Stack writes he's a native of Madison County, that he's married with 2 children and 4 grandkids, and he served 2 tours of duty in Viet Nam with the Navy Seabees. He's been a small business owner, and for the last 9 years, he worked for the Illinois Department of Transportation as an urban planner. Mr. Stack is here today to speak about the Madison County Democrat Party organization and what he hopes to accomplish as its chairman. Jim Stack, welcome to Conversation.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad that you're here, and so I'd like to just start from the beginning, as I said in the introduction. Let's just talk about the county party of which you are now the head. You were elected when?
I was elected in May, after actually the first part of June. We had 30 days to have convene another convention to re-elect after the tragic loss of Chairman Melucci. Mm-hmm. So that's how long I've been here.
And Chairman Melucci was also the circuit clerk of courts
yes,
as well.
He was circuit clerk in Madison County, yes, for many years.
Okay, and he'd been here in this chair, and we know him and remember him, and it was a very sad loss.
Yes,
he was not that old of a gentleman. So the Democrat Party has been the majority party in Madison County for as long as I can remember, certainly back into the 60s. I believe that Madison County back before the 60s was a Republican county, but then for some reason switched over to the Democrats, and the Democrats have been in control since then. Although the Republicans have made some gains in the number of members of the board, the county board in recent years. Having said all that, now I want you to tell me what it is that the Democrat Party stands for in Madison County and what you hope to accomplish.
Well, as always, Lee, I grew up in a working class family. My father was a steel worker. I'm originally from Granite City. And of course, that was the impact that the unions had. I'm one of 9, Lee. They didn't have cable television back in those days.
No. Sometimes you barely had TV.
We barely had TV, yes. But I started out at a young age, at 9, 10 years old, walking pieces for the precinct committeemen in my hometown. And have been involved with Democratic politics ever since. My beliefs and views are the democratic values of taking care of the poor, the indigent, and the working man, and helping people become from the poor to a middle class area. We have we've been for years a blue collar county in Madison County, and of course with so many of the plants being shut down and so much of the industry going away, being shipped overseas, we still have quite a bit happening here, but not like it used to be.
Yeah, why don't we stop right there and just review for just a second for people who are watching this, maybe even on YouTube, that don't know Madison County and what it was like back when you were growing up compared to what it has become in the last couple of decades. Just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Back when I was young, my father worked for Dow Chemical, which became Comedco. There was General Steel Industries, you had American Steel Industries, of course you had Granite City Steel, Alton, you had all the Alton Steel, the mills.
Alton Box Board?
Alton Box Board, yes. Many of the companies that have been either gone or downsized.
Now, in your opinion, what happened? Why is it Madison County was an industrial county and now it has basically been deindustrialized?
Well, a lot of it had to do, for example, I worked as a young man going to college at General Steel Industries. They were number one in the world in building one-piece underframes for railroad cars, the big single pour castings on these massive 600 and 700,000 pound Westinghouse turbine castings. Their patents started running out, for example. The Japanese were able to ship in these massive castings, these turbine castings, for the dams and whatnot, in pieces, and then weld them together cheaper. It was just a loss of the ability to maintain so many of those middle class jobs. And the great thing about it, like I said, is that my mother was a stay-at-home mother with many of us, but he was able to earn a wage that allowed us to live, not by any chance. We never had a problem with being able to attend school. We all had to go. I'm fortunate enough to be able to go to school on the GI Bill. But my brothers and sisters, through student loans and working through the summers and working their way through school, you don't have a lot of that ability anymore because of a lot of the lost those jobs. If you worked in a steel mill and you're attending college, it was always pretty simple for you if your parent. Your father worked at the steel mill to get on for the summer and earn enough money to get you through that next school year. So the loss of all of that really made quite a difference.
Now,
and many jobs being shipped out of country.
Well, I have to ask a question here, and you may or may not know an answer to this, but at the time, and you mentioned Japan starting to make these undercarriages for I guess, box cars?
Yes,
for
rail
trains.
cars.
That when you saw, or when people at that time saw that the Japanese were doing this, why didn't people adapt at that time to meet the competition so that they could keep the industry going?
That's a very good question, Lee. I know that General Steel, for example, had taken a tremendous amount of profit from this particular plant in Granite City, and it was allowed them to adjust and keep other plants around the country, if I remember correctly, that going. So there was a lot taken out of this area and never put back in. One of the great things that happened at Granite City Steel was the continuous caster and some of the provisions that Granite City Steel looked forward enough and looked enough in the future to modernize. Many of these plants did not.
Mm-hmm. And so then they fell by the wayside.
Sure.
Now,
Sure.
as I recall, when I came to this area, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, but I came here in the fall of '70 to go to SIU Edwardsville. And even at that time, Alton was still doing fairly well, as was Granite City, but then I noticed that over the next decade, things, as you've just described, started falling away. At that time, Granite and Alton and those areas along the Mississippi River, that was the political powerhouse areas. Edwardsville, Glen Carbon, Highland, Godfrey, they didn't have nearly as much to say, but there's been a transition also.
Yes, there has.
Can you talk about how that?
Well, the industrial belt is still there and somewhat alive. Nothing like it used to be, of course. But that's still our key areas. And of course, the transformation. There's been over 10,000 people since 2000 move into Madison County. Increasing our population to 269,000. Mm-hmm. So, but those are people that are coming here because of the convenience of Madison County to a lot of the jobs across the river. We are a workforce for many of the industry in St. Louis area, in the St. Louis region.
Which is why I wonder why IDOT and MoDOT can't seem to get those roads where it's not piling up going into Missouri every day.
Well, I think we have that solved. It sounds like through East-West Gateway and the regional people, they've made a lot of headway in resolving those problems. They're not completely finished off yet, but there is resolve.
The new bridge is coming.
The new bridge is coming, and the resolve on some of the situations with the Poplar Street Bridge, I think, is on its way. Mm-hmm. Let's hope.
Yes, yeah, I hope so. But you're right. I mean, Madison County, as well as Monroe and St. Clair, do serve as places for the working population that goes into St. Louis City and County and gets the jobs done over there.
Yes.
I've always thought, why don't they start putting some of these jobs back over where these people live?
I think there's a definite effort to do that, and that's why I think through some of the organizations such as East-West Gateway and doing things in a regional manner, it's going to make a difference. We of course have the warehousing now on 270, and the tremendous access that this area has to to the multimodal, not only tremendous rail and water facilities, but the port districts. That's going to make a tremendous difference. What's been done at America's Central Port in Granite City is extremely important to bringing more industry and more jobs to this county.
Yeah, Mr. Wilmsmeyer.
Yes, Dennis Wilmsmeyer.
He's been a guest here and described what it is that they're trying to accomplish there.
Yes.
So what do you expect to see? I mean, we're in today, so that people know, because this thing is going to show about a month from now, but people understand that we're here, it's October the 9th.
Yes.
And we're coming up to a national election.
Yes.
Here's a setup question. What do you expect to happen on November 6th?
I expect very much. This has been a very exciting cycle for us. It's one of the first cycles in many years, for example, that there is opposition for all candidates on both sides. And that's kind of exciting. There's a lot of effort going into this election here in Madison County. It's one of the most important elections, I feel, not only in Madison County and the state of Illinois, but nationally in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. There's such a tremendous divide and difference in the ideologies of the two parties in this particular cycle that I think it's a great great potential for us to gain back as Democrats, as people, as a party for the working man, whether he be blue collar or not. I don't believe there are a lot of multimillionaires in Madison County, but I do believe it's definitely an election cycle that we've never experienced before. It's been extremely busy and quite exciting to be involved with all the different campaigns and candidates. We have a tremendous and a great slate of candidates from Madison County for our state legislature all the way up to the president. I think that it will be beneficial, extremely beneficial to us that we can bring Madison County back. Although I don't think we've lost much of it, we can't, as Democrats and working families, can't afford to lose any more of it.
In your opinion, what is the difference whether a Democrat or Republican sits in an office like auditor, treasurer, county clerk, circuit clerk? What makes a difference from your perspective?
From my perspective, I guess, Lee, my main consideration is the professionalism and the ability to do the job. We have candidates that are of course incumbent, that have been there and really know what to do and how to serve this county. This county has cut back over $20 million in expenses over the last couple of years since 2000. 11. The audit that came out on how effective Madison County and how efficient Madison County has been. And you can only contribute that to these professionals that are Democrats. Rick Fassen, Herman Dunstan, Mark Venida. These people, most people in Madison County don't realize that Madison County is looked upon extremely favorably throughout the entire state. Most all of our candidates and most all of our office holders have been at one time or are right now actually the president or chairman of the state associations for which they belong to. The Coroners Association. Coroner Steve Nunn is currently the chairman and president of the Coroners Association, state of Illinois. Sheriff Bob Hertz just finished his term as president of the Sheriff's Association, County Sheriff's Association. Most all of our candidates are extremely well qualified and extremely professional. Why do I believe the Democrats have an advantage? Because I think the Democrats and the Democratic Party in Madison County are willing to make the sacrifices and understand where our population and where our people need and what they need and how we continue to give them the services without overdoing anything else.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Chairman Dunstan. He's in a race with a Republican.
Yes.
And I believe his name is Chris Slusser?
Slusser, yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from your perspective, you have Mr. Slusser is on the board. Mr. Dunstan used to be on the board, but now he's been chairman since, I think, 2002 or 4,
yes.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. What would you see that the course of Madison County would be if suddenly it switched over to a Republican leader?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have a crystal ball.
No, I mean, I'm talking about from the Democrat Party's perspective. What would you think would be different, and why you would want Mr. Dunstan to remain there?
Well, I'd like to see Mr. Dunstan stay there because Mr. Dunstan has a good handle on what's required to continue the services needed for the people of Madison County without going into a austerity issue where we cut back so much and reduce jobs just to save money, when in fact we are probably the most efficient county in the state. I don't think there's another county that's in the black as well as the Madison County is. They've done a tremendous job, and I think as Democrats, they should continue to be able to do that.
Now the county, as I recall, if I remember my reading, have had to let go something like 225 workers?
Sure, and a lot of that was done through attrition. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of layoffs, but when the county got hit with this recession as the entire nation got hit. Let's face it. And you go through these foreclosure issues, and your tax base drops off, and it takes a while to catch up with sales. All real estate and taxes are based on sales. Well, if you sold a home in 2009 for $100,000, and in 2010 it was worth $60,000, it takes a while for those to catch up. What the county did in realizing that has really done a great job, a tremendous job, in allowing and keeping the benefits and the services for the people of Madison County by reducing their budget, reducing their cost. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough thing to do.
And amending the pension process as well.
Yes, they have.
And that is probably within Democrat ranks and union ranks a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Would you like to elaborate on that? I mean, it's more than, yes, it is. I mean, there has to be some thinking, some feeling on the part of Democrats who normally are strong supporters of what some call elaborate pension programs.
Yes, and it's surprising to me quite often in the way and the way the country has gone, as to look at public sector positions as not being eligible as well as they are, and not being being allowed. I mean, because you work for, what you hear every day, I'm a taxpayer, you work for me. But I get a pension, but you don't need a pension. Are some of those pensions gotten out of hand in the past when things were going so well? Sure. Have they made some efforts, both with the union, just like the auto workers, what they did to sit down and negotiate and work out their differences, especially when it comes to the pension? What the state has done, it makes a difference when you can sit down and negotiate and keep professional people where they are, rather than losing them and losing their abilities because you lay off people to bring in people that don't understand their jobs.
Ah, okay, yes, I hear what you're saying. That the people who are doing the jobs now are trained, and you think that if they're cut away and replacements are brought in, that they won't be able to do the job as effectively?
Sure. I mean, that's just, I know what it took when I went to work. I was a public, private business owner for many years, and was looking for something to do. When I worked at that, they flat told me, it's going to take you 3 years to learn this job. And I was very fortunate that they had a program that allowed the gentleman that I was replacing, the urban planner from District 8, to come back 75 days a year and train me. And that's what it takes in most of these positions. I think you see that what's happening in a few of the offices right now that have changed. So there is, there's definitely these people have given many years of their life to this county. Do they deserve a pension as everyone else does? Yes, they do. I don't think that it's a question of I guess the question now is when you hire new hires, if they come on, they may have to contribute a little more towards that pension, but they deserve that pension, and they deserve the right to be able to negotiate for their working, for their jobs and how they perform and what they perform.
Now, as the new chairman of the Madison County Democrat Party, I imagine you're doing things a little different. What differences between when Matt Melucci was chairman versus what you're doing now?
We had to make quite an adjustment. As you know, this atmosphere today, as you well stated, Madison County has been a Democratic controlled county for many years. But we had to make some adjustments to how we effectively approach those voters. It's most important now than ever before for people to vote. We in the last primary did not have our Democratic voters out there, perhaps because there was nothing for them to vote for. There's a tremendous amount for them a lot for them to vote for this time. So I think what we've done is we've determined that hanging a bag load of literature on someone's door isn't quite effective, makes it easier to throw it in the trash. So yes, we've made some changes. Without giving away too much prior to the election. We made a lot of changes in how we're approaching this election cycle. Boots on the ground type approach is like we did when I was younger.
I was going to ask you back when you said that when you were young,
Yes.
I think you said 9,
10 years old, sure.
9, 10.
Got my 50 cents a day.
Right, that you would go, hand out literature for the local, I guess, precinct captain.
Yes.
Does that still, committeeman, does that still happen? Are there still young people who are brought into the process at that age?
Sure. We do this. A lot of the precinct committeemen bring their, my grandchildren and grandchildren have been brought up all their lives. I just had a call from my grandson, my oldest grandson just turned 24 yesterday, but he called and I talked to him and he asked if I needed help to walk this weekend. My grandkids have grown up in this as many others have, and yes, that's a key to keeping the Democratic Party, and any party, let's face it, is to get our young people involved and keep them involved.
We have about 3 minutes left to this program, and at this point, I'm just going to say, if there's anything that you would like to talk about in this last 3 minutes, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Lee. I guess now that I realize that this is not going to be aired before the election, I guess I just hope that the people of Madison County realize the differences between the two parties in Madison County.
I just want to interrupt for just 1 second and say that I will have this program loaded to YouTube definitely before this probably shortly. So you'll be able to have
awesome.
people take a look at this. So
well, in that case, then very
ahead.
much, yeah. We need people to vote. We need people to take the time. Early voting starts November 22nd through November 3rd.
You mean October?
October.
Yes.
October 22nd.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Let's not give people a bum steer.
Yes, I've never had a program before, or been on a program. Excuse me. But yes, October 22nd through November 3rd is early voting. There'll be 13 early voting stations around the county. There will also be early voting the Sunday between the two in Madison County at the courthouse. So there's at this cycle there's also vote by mail. You don't need an excuse or reason to have an absentee ballot this election. You can vote.
So
by
you don't
mail
have to be claiming I'm out of the county on that
No, you
day.
don't. Vote by mail. You'll be getting people will be getting in touch with all the voters, and you'll be sent an application. That application will come in. Then of course it will be sent on to the circuit clerk, Mark Benida, who will send out your ballot. Then you have to have that filled out, of course, and at least postmarked by November 6th, the evening.
Oh, it doesn't have to be received by.
So does not have to be received.
They could put it into the mail on voting day.
On voting day, yes, sir. So more than anything else, I would like to see everyone vote and vote where their heart is.
Me too. Everybody needs to have their voice heard in this coming election, so we don't have any whining about well, it just didn't turn out the way I wanted.
You can't do that if you don't vote.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us today. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm glad that I'm your first experience here on television.
Yes, you are, sir.
So, we didn't slap you around or anything.
I appreciate that.
We were just straightforward here. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much for being with us.
And I thank you, sir.
Thank you. And to the audience, I've been speaking with Mr. Jim Stack. He is the chairman of Madison County, Illinois Democrat Party. Take his advice. All of you, Democrats or Republicans, go vote. Thank you. See you next time.